Forget New Year, New You. This season is about slowing down, locking the doors, and cozying up at home with the one you really want to do nothing with. Your dog. After the holiday chaos, those quiet nights with a blanket, a podcast, and your pup feel like the reset you actually need. Ollie helps make those moments easier with fresh protein-packed meals made from real human-grade ingredients, so your dog can enjoy some quality comfort food too. Choose from 5 recipes and get a personalized plan for your dog's needs. Meals arrive perfectly proportioned with a scoop and storage container, so serving is fast and mess-free. And with Ollie's in-app on-demand health screenings, supporting your dog is easy, ensuring more cuddles for many years to come. Visit ollie.com/truecrime and use code TRUECRIME for 60% off your first box.
A man was calling to report an emergency in Orlando, Florida. The voice on the line belonged to 50-year-old David Tronnes. David told the dispatcher he found his wife, Shanti Cooper-Tronnes, passed out in the shower. She was 39 years old. David seemed so overcome with emotions, he could hardly speak as the dispatcher asked him questions.
Tell me exactly what happened.
I can't try.
Okay, what happened?
I found her in the shower.
The dispatcher relayed CPR instructions as emergency responders rushed over to the couple's house, located in an upper-class downtown historic neighborhood. It was a Tuesday afternoon in April 2018. "She's gone," David said on the 911 call, his voice faint, almost a whisper.
Has she been sick or something?
Yeah, she's been sick, yes.
By the time police arrived, David had pulled Shanti out of the shower and she was lying on the floor on a mattress pad. She had on damp clothes, a tank top, and shorts. And she was dead. Suspicion quickly fell on David Tronnes. But today's episode isn't exactly an open and shut case where a suspect goes to trial and a jury rules on his guilt or innocence. Today's episode is a much more complicated legal saga, and one you don't often hear about on Court Junkie. This is Jillian, and in partnership with Law and Crime, you are listening to Court Junkie, episode 192. Back at Orlando Police Headquarters, a pair of detectives interviewed David Tronnes. They started the conversation by saying how sorry they were for his loss. They praised him for his cooperation and assured him he could take a break if he needed one. They also read him his Miranda rights, and David freely began talking to them for more than 5.5 hours. He wasn't handcuffed, and he never asked for an attorney. The detectives started out by using a gentle tone.
Obviously, we don't know what happened in your home today, okay? We don't know what happened to Shanti yet. We know you called us, which is good, okay? And we know that obviously she's lost her life, okay? So we do need to, you're not under arrest, okay? I want you to understand that, okay? But we do need to read you your rights because you are in a police department with 2 detectives in this room and you've been here for quite some time, okay? And I want you to understand that. We're just trying to figure out what happened to her, okay? And so it's our job to do that, obviously, and we want to give you answers, her son answers. I mean, her family deserves that. Would you agree? Okay.
The detectives learned that, newly divorced, David met Shanti on Match.com. David was in Minnesota, Shanti in Florida. They flew back and forth to see each other in a whirlwind, long-distance relationship. "I am looking for it all, Dave," Shanti wrote to him in an undated email. "I want to be in love, so deeply, so pure, and something that is lasting and a growing, living thing. I know my expectations are high, but not unrealistic. I am not settling, and neither are you, and I can tell that you are in the same boat as me by your writing and your tone. Dave, I will have to say, I think this will be a delicious detour, amazing, magnificent, life-changing detour if the planets align." David moved to Florida within months. It was Shanti's and David's second chance at love. They both had been divorced before. "I've never been more loved," David told detectives, his voice full of emotion. David's source of income was somewhat of a mystery. He had quit his job in Minnesota, apparently very wealthy. There was speculation whether he inherited a large sum of money. He had a real estate license, although he told the detectives the status was inactive in Florida. Some of Shanti's loved ones didn't seem too fond of him. They wondered if he was a con man or was lazy. Shanti hired a nanny and personal assistant to help her while she worked from home, even though David stayed at home all day and wasn't working in Orlando. Shanti was an entrepreneur and a financial whiz. She worked as a financial accounting consultant, earning 6 figures a year. She was also a mother to an 8-year-old boy, which made David a stepfather. She had it all. There was nothing she couldn't do, one of Shanti's professional contacts told authorities. Shanti and David were both conventionally attractive. Shanti with perfect cheekbones and long dark hair. David was about 10 years older, but he had a youthful face and was tall and tan. They also seemed like opposites. Shanti was known as a type A personality. She kept to-do lists. She wasn't afraid to say what she thought. She was the dominant one in the relationship, while some said David was the kind of person who liked yoga and relaxing at the pool. Here's what Shanti's friend Melissa told detectives.
My impression was that, to some degree, Shanti was... No, let me take that back. My impression was that Shanti was in charge. And that's kind of how I am at my house. So I feel like she was obviously the dominant person who kind of called the shots. And to some degree, I felt like Dave was emasculated a tiny bit and kind of had his head between his legs every time we kind of were together. And he just was always doting on her to make sure she was happy. But that just, to me, kind of was his personality.
Did it seem to bother him?
No, not to me.
But he wanted to know from you how to handle her, basically.
Yeah, in a good way. Like, how can I make things better? Well, we kind of joke about it, she's grumpy, always working a lot, those type of things. But
David and Shanti's neighbors had varying impressions of him, so it depended on who you asked. Some neighbors liked him. He smiled and waved at them. Others thought he was creepy. Several said they were surprised when they learned David was married to a woman. They assumed he was gay. One neighbor, who was gay, said David once seemed to hit on him. David and Shanti were going to start a new life together in Orlando, in a house David had bought in 2015 for about $608,000 in cash. It was an older 4-bedroom Victorian-style house full of character and with a pool, in a nice historic neighborhood just outside downtown Orlando. Around 2016, David started a major home renovation. He wanted to create an open concept inside the house to make it more modern. They saw the potential in what was going to be their dream home. David acted as a general contractor for the home and hired subcontractors and a consultant to help him. It wasn't going well. They found water and termite damage. David fired multiple workers, saying they charged too much or didn't do a good enough job, and the house remained unfinished as the months went on. A dumpster was parked outside and became a permanent fixture, a reminder the work was never ending. But Shanti stepped back, letting David have complete control. Shanti's ex-husband said that knowing Shanti, he couldn't believe she would allow the renovation to take that long. He told detectives that he knew Shanti and David argued about it and said she would sometimes express her frustrations to him, but not in great detail. He said he believed it was taking so long because they had fired a few subcontractors and kept having to find new ones. One neighbor, Elena, who had a son the same age as Shanti's, described her invitation to see the house. Elena worked in architecture and interior design.
So I think you said David asked you to come over?
Correct.
Okay, so when you saw the main house, what was the condition of it?
It had definitely been gutted, not fully gutted. The kitchen had been ripped out, definitely no furniture. Stair was still there. There was some drywall missing. There were like electrical lines hanging from the ceiling.
Stairs were still there. Was there a floor?
What do you mean a floor? Like on the floor? Oh, the floor. No, yeah, there was a floor.
There was a floor.
You could walk on the floor. Yeah.
Okay.
Some of the material had been ripped up, but you could still walk. But there was debris everywhere.
She said David was excited about her profession and wanted her opinion on what to do with it. She said some of his ideas seemed illogical.
Did it seem, as you're looking around the house and he's explaining what they want to do, that it was going to be expensive?
Oh, I mean, I could tell it was going to be expensive. I mean, that was not, at that point, I mean, that's where they were already. It was like a $200,000, $300,000 renovation minimum. Right there. Forget anything else. Just
forget the condition it's in now. This is just the condition how you saw it.
How I saw it, to get this in a livable condition.
She said the renovation had already been going on for 6 months at that point, and it didn't seem to be going anywhere.
Well, I'm questioning, like, did you go there again and notice that it still wasn't done?
Oh, yeah, because when I had made food for them that time, I mean, it was like time had stood still. I mean, there was, still a mess.
David invited another neighbor to see what was happening inside the house in 2018. The neighbor was horrified by what he saw. The exposed floor beams, the site of the earth where the floor was supposed to be. The neighbor was scared to go inside for safety reasons. The neighbor leaned in and told David the house reminded him of the movie The Money Pit, and then joked, "How's your marriage?" David and the neighbor both laughed and then moved on to talking about the plans for the remodel, according to the police report. When paramedics and police responded to David's 911 call that same year, on April 24th, 2018, the house was still unlivable. Police could see the interior of the house was stripped away, exposing electric wiring and plumbing and the slab and studs. "You guys have almost completely gutted it down to the studs," one of the detectives told David. While the main house was in a constant state of disrepair, Shanti and David retreated for 2 years to a cramped rear garage apartment on the back of their property, where Shanti's body would eventually be found. They didn't have much privacy. Shanti's son's bunk bed was just feet away from their bed, although David slept on the couch to escape Shanti's snoring. Shanti complained she couldn't cook. The refrigerator was in the outdoor hallway outside the door to the apartment, and another refrigerator was in the garage area where they had set up a makeshift kitchen. David threw his clothes and tools around in the tiny space. "I can't live like this. You need to fix this," Shanti yelled in an outburst her nanny overheard. Again, here's Elena, their neighbor.
But it was like one big open room. And then downstairs in the garage, it was like half had just junk all in it. And then the other half, they tried to make a little living room out of it. And then like no kitchen, a little microwave on a table. And it was, I thought it was crazy. Couldn't live like that. I've never lived through any of my renovations in the house that I renovated. There's no way.
What was Shanti's perception, reaction?
I think she was embarrassed because it was like, I'm living like this, but she kind of acted like, oh, this is temporary, we'll get through it. And I remember being like, okay, yeah, because I couldn't do this.
After a busy day of working from home, Shanti would reportedly drink a glass of wine, maybe a few glasses, and her temper flared up when she couldn't hide her frustrations any longer about her husband and their living conditions. Shanti hated germs and a mess. The nanny said their marriage didn't seem happy, but there were no signs of abuse. Shanti never had any black eyes or marks. The nanny said, if anything, Shanti was verbally abusive to David. All of this might have made for good drama worthy of reality TV. The couple believed they were going to be on the show Zombie House Flipping on the A&E channel. It was a show that told the stories of foreclosed houses in great disrepair that flippers wanted to fix up and sell. "We were super, super excited," David told detectives. He expected to get sponsorships and financial help to finish the monster project. Filming was set to start May 7th, in a few weeks, and David apparently paused the construction project until the cameras arrived to film. The day Shanti died, in April, David wrote a list brainstorming sponsorships for windows, doors, and cabinets. He was excited he could get resources to upgrade to granite or quartz or put in high-end cabinets. But it also seemed like rebuilding the house and the reality TV show was a strain on the couple's marriage.
So it has been somewhat tense living like that and going through everything you guys have been going through, plus her medical, plus she's trying to work and bring money in. She's got stress at work. So it's been, I guess, fair to say tense, but things starting to line up.
I just would say that we've been anxious to get it lined up. Excuse me, I had a thought. We have the renovation paid for. We have the money for the renovation in savings ready to go. We did a calculation on Saturday, I think it was. We think we probably have, with the help that we'll get from the show, another $150 on our part to finish it. We have that money sitting there, and we have enough money on top of that to start the business that we want to start from that.
To flip houses.
And at that point, we don't have a mortgage. We have a fully renovated 5,000 square foot home in the neighborhood we want to live in with a yard and a pool. It's just what we've always wanted.
Dream come true, yeah.
The couple's ownership of the property was unorthodox. David had purchased the house in a trust that had his mother's name on it. Shanti's name wasn't listed on the trust since they hadn't been married at the time of the purchase.
When we bought the house, we weren't married, and so we put it in a trust, and we just completed the trust paperwork end of last year, beginning of this year, to put her name on the trust and slowly kind of migrate my mom, she's 82, off of it.
David said they were in the process of getting Shanti's name on the house, but the process hadn't been completed. The only thing left to do was to notarize the documents when Shanti died. David told the detectives that Shanti also had listed David as the beneficiary on her life insurance policy that was worth $250,000. Detectives would later uncover that Shanti seemed to be keeping a digital journal where she typed out her anger over their finances. She felt that David was cheap, was lying to her about his wealth, and she was frustrated at the unfinished house that she was pouring her own money into, even though she didn't officially own it. They often fought in front of Shanti's son. On March 25, 2016, Shanti wrote, "I am asking him to sign the cohabitation agreement, which would protect my investment in the house. Approx to date, I am around $60K invested in this house, and I will try to document so that when I do have to leave, which it seems inevitable at this time, that I will have a claim to the amount of money that I have put into this property." Shanti also made a list that said lies, prior, Craigslist personal ads, and posting pictures. Money inherited, never seen any proof that it is true. I believe this is a lie, or why would he be so cheap about everything? And the last bullet point read, stealing money from me. During the interview at police headquarters, one detective asked David why he was wearing his wedding ring on his right hand, which the detective thought was odd. In his police report, he wrote, "Wearing a ring, specifically a black ring, on the right ring finger can symbolize different sexual proclivities to the gay, bisexual, heterosexual, and swinger communities."
Where's your wedding ring?
Pardon me?
Where's your wedding ring?
Mine?
Mm-hmm.
It's right here.
And why is it on that hand? I'm curious.
After we both scaled back, we both lost a significant amount of weight, and in the pool, it will slip off of this.
In the pool, it slips off your finger?
I mean, completely off the finger, yeah.
Uh-huh.
It's barely on this one.
Wow. So you just switched it?
Either I need to resize or I need to
gain weight.
Gain a couple pounds back to get to where I was when I originally got it. I was just curious. But,
I didn't know if that was your wedding ring or not because it was on my hand.
It is. I never take it off.
It's just loose. Okay.
The detective also inquired about Shanti's missing diamond engagement ring. She hadn't been wearing it when paramedics were trying to revive her. David said Shanti's ring was still there. The detectives knew that was wrong, but didn't correct him.
She have any other jewelry on that you remember?
Earrings.
She had earrings? What did they look like?
Diamonds. Sparkly, small. Studs.
Small studs? Does she wear a necklace?
Not very often. Not since the surgery. She's been wearing almost nothing other than her ring. She lost a diamond shipped out of her ring. We got it replaced 5-6 weeks ago, something like that.
So today she had on her wedding ring. Is it a diamond and a band? Is it 2 rings or one?
Correct.
It's 2. Okay. So she's got 2 rings on her left hand. She's got her stud diamond earrings and any other jewelry?
I don't think so.
The detectives pressed David about his marriage. Did he and Shanti ever break up or have problems? David acknowledged that Shanti's job was stressful and that sometimes they fought.
I would just say, why don't we take a break or just let it, a little cool down period. And every time we did it, we came back. I think we only did it twice, but, we were stronger.
Okay.
We may have only done that once.
David said that right before Shanti's death, however, they had been happy. Shanti, recovering from a burst appendix, felt good for the first time in a while since her health issues had started. She had surgery February 23rd and was in a lot of pain, but finally, she was getting back to her old self. They were excited about the TV show filming. They drank wine and went out to see friends. David and Shanti were intimate together that weekend, according to David, telling detectives that Shanti was on her period and that their sex was very messy. Investigators would see blood on the bed and the sheets.
Are you saying that blood got somewhere?
I understand the gravity of the question. At the same time, it did get on the bedspread and it did get on the side of the bed.
He said he had since washed the sheets and changed them. But when asked if there would be blood on the bed now, he said she was bleeding when he brought her out of the shower. From the police report, quote, David had switched the conversation from Shanti allegedly bleeding on the bed during the end of her menstrual cycle over the weekend during sex to the moment when he removed her from the bathtub 2 days later when she was bleeding from her face. David told the detectives that he heard water running in the bathroom, and when he went in, he saw his wife lying motionless, partially submerged in the water. Obviously, she fell or something happened, he said. He struggled to lift her up. Her body felt like a sack of potatoes. He said he realized he couldn't carry her, so he tried to pull her as carefully as possible while screaming, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" He said he pulled her into the other room and didn't know what to do.
I got her in front of the couch, and I had to stop. I put her down, and I tried to lift her head up to kind of clear, I guess it's the thing you do if you're going to do CPR or something. She's had responding. She had blood coming down her face and on the side of her body. And I'm still thinking I'm still thinking that she's going to be okay. I got we had taken the mattress pad off the bed. I set the mattress pad down underneath her and I set her on it.
He said he got a towel and tried to wipe away the blood.
Where was the blood coming from?
The left side of her face, here, on her cheekbone.
The detective went over the details again of when he said he found her.
So you're saying that her head and face and neck are underwater, and her right side is kind of on a slant, so her right side's not as underwater. She is basically, for all intents and purposes, submerged almost completely up to her torso.
I'm going crazy at that point. It could have been a little bit of, it could have been a little of this, and this is down. It could have been on
her clothing is wet or not?
Yeah.
Her clothing is wet?
Yeah.
Okay. So her hair is definitely wet, right?
Yeah.
Her clothing, her tank, and her shorts are wet. And she's face down.
He said he carried her over to the bed and then put her on the ground so he could do CPR.
Do you open her mouth or no?
I tried, but it was very stiff, and her tongue seemed to be sticking out a little bit. I tried to open her jaw. I tried to open her airway, because just tilting her head back and lifting her neck up a little bit didn't do it.
Okay. Do you recall how you tried to open her jaw?
I just used my hands.
Okay. Like on what part of her face?
You're putting your fingers under and lifting.
Like a chin lift? Okay.
Under the front, under the top, and fingers open, pushing the bottom down, trying to separate.
Okay.
So I can see her top.
Do you think at this point that she is gone, or you're not sure?
I'm thinking that she is.
The pair of detectives saw what they described as glaring issues with David's story. His version of events didn't match the evidence. According to the police report, quote, swabs from Shanti's neck and both of her hands showed no foreign DNA present, and there was no presence of male DNA on the anal, vaginal, and oral swabs. These results caused me to question David's testimony about them having sexual intercourse on Saturday in the late evening hours and again on Sunday morning. Placing Shanti inside a tub full of water could have been an attempt to eliminate DNA and blood evidence from her body and to support David's assertion that she had fallen. The detectives confronted him about this as David sat with his legs crossed and arms folded. Shanti didn't die from a fall, one of the detectives said. She said that the rigor mortis had already set in when police arrived.
Do you know how long it takes someone to get stiff?
I don't.
Okay, I do. Do you know how long it takes for blood to pool when you die?
No, I don't.
I do. We're also very well trained in what injuries look like perimortem, mortem, and postmortem.
Sure.
Okay? So her body's not lying to us.
Of course not.
And neither are her injuries. Okay? So I think that you've told us a significant amount of information. You've been very cooperative. But I also think that you've left some stuff out.
She said maybe things got out of hand, and maybe he didn't mean for it to happen and got upset. Then he left, ran errands, came back, and called 911.
But there's something that happened between the two of you before you left that house. Because she was deceased, or on her way to being deceased, before you left that house. And she had been deceased while you were gone. And when you came back and found her, it's pretty evident that she was deceased.
Yeah.
Cold, stiff,
yeah,
significant swelling,
yeah,
and a lot of bloating.
Agreed.
I told you everything, David insisted. But the detective told him that Shanti had significant injuries that weren't from a fall.
Did you two argue?
No, absolutely not.
Did you fight?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Did you harm Shanti in any way?
Absolutely not.
Did you choke her?
Absolutely not.
Did you strangle her?
Without question, no.
Did you beat her?
No.
Did you hit her with anything?
Absolutely not.
The detective pointed out that the inside of the tub was completely dry and that there was no water on the floor or carpet. She's damp. She's not even wet, she said. She told him that David pulling her out of the tub like he said didn't happen. David agreed that he couldn't explain Shanti's injuries. He said it frightens him that he can't explain them.
For you to see the significance of her injuries up close and personal like you did and come up with this cockamamie theory that she fell and hit her head is just baffling to me that you thought we would believe that. It's just baffling.
I don't know what happened.
That you had a significant amount of time to come up with something, but to think that we would buy that she slipped and fell in the tub and hit her head. And you saw how significant those injuries were. You saw it up close and personal. You saw the swelling on her face. You described how the severity of her eye, the cuts to her face. To think that we would think that she slipped and hit her head and had a significant eye injury like she does. Both eyes.
Both eyes?
Both eyes. Do you know how those injuries occur to the eyes like that?
No.
You strangled her.
Even when the detectives weren't in the room with David, the camera was still rolling, still recording. One of those times, about 2 hours into the interview, David began talking to himself. What sounded like, "Why did you do that?" 3 times as he wrapped his arms around himself and rocked up and down. Nearly 15 minutes later, he said again to himself, "Why, Shanti? Why, Shanti? Why, Shanti?" Investigators had ample reason to suspect that what David Tronnes had said happened to his wife Shanti hadn't really happened that way at all. At first, on that 911 call, David had seemed upset, at times hysterical. But at other points on the call, detectives thought his tone seemed to change.
They're almost there to you. They're responding emergency to you.
There's a blue dumpster. They have to come back. Oh, God.
What is blue?
There's a blue dumpster, big blue dumpster in the driveway. They have to turn in. And if they can get past it, they have to drive past it. If they can't get past it,
they'll park out in the street. They'll just park out in the street.
The police report noted, David sounded as if he was hysterically crying one moment and then would completely stop and answer certain questions as if nothing was wrong in a very matter-of-fact way. He would then go back to sounding as if he was sobbing hysterically. The 911 call to police and medical both sounded rehearsed and disingenuous. The police report noted that at the scene, David seemed like he was acting. His distress appeared to be exaggerated, and investigators didn't notice any tears in his eyes when he sobbed. David's story of what happened also evolved. First, an Orlando police officer heard him recount that he went upstairs to remind his wife that it was almost 4 p.m., and they needed to pick up her son at school. That's when David said he found her in the tub, face down with the water running. He said he had pulled her out of the tub and immediately began CPR before calling 911. But then David said that no, she wasn't inside the tub. Shanti's body was outside the tub, and her face was submerged in the water inside. But why was Shanti in the shower, fully clothed? Why was the tub completely dry? Surely there would be water droplets at least if she had turned on the running water like David said she did. The bathroom rug was dry too. The bed, where Shanti's body was lying beside, was oddly made. And then there was Shanti's body. Investigators saw evidence of violence. The theory of her dying from a slip and fall in the shower, like David implied, seemed highly unlikely. The medical examiner ruled that Shanti died from strangulation and blunt head trauma. Her face and neck were swollen and bruised. Her wrist was bloody, as if someone had dug nails into her skin. Her right eye was full of blood, and her left eye so injured, investigators couldn't open it. One officer wrote this in the police report: "I did not observe any defensive wounds on her hands or arms as if she had struggled to save her own life. I observed her long fingernails to be fully intact and not broken, as if she was unable to put up a fight to save herself." Then there was the blood. Quote, "I observed blood on her face, blood on the bedspread or mattress pad underneath her body, blood on the green carpet away from her body, diluted blood in the bathroom on the floor, the edge of the tub, inside the tub, on the tile wall in the tub/shower, and on the shower curtain. There was a ring of dried, diluted blood in the tub approximately 3/4 of the way up to the outer rim. There was also a clump of long black hair in the drain, which was consistent with the decedent's hair color. Just south of the decedent's head and just slightly under the bed, I observed 3 wooden slats on the carpet with red stains on the ends of them, which appeared to be suspected blood." Shanti also had bad rug burns on her knees. Shanti's DNA was found under David's fingernails, which investigators thought explained the deep cut on Shanti's wrist. Only David's fingerprints appeared on the tub, a fact so important, Orlando police highlighted it in red in the police report. The investigators' theory was that Shanti had been attacked in bed as she was taking off her earrings for the night. That explained why one diamond was in her left ear and the other on the nightstand. Her head was turned to face the nightstand, so she never saw her attacker. Her body was then placed in the tub so that whoever killed her could wash up the blood and destroy DNA evidence. But what motive did David have to want his wife dead? He appeared to have been living a secret life. Did Shanti discover it before she was murdered? There was also the issue of Shanti's health that interested investigators. Shanti hadn't been feeling well in the weeks before she died. She had surgery for appendicitis in late February, less than 2 months before her death. When Shanti's ex-husband, James, learned of Shanti's death, he initially assumed she must have died from a complication from her surgery or another health-related reason. He told detectives she had had a difficult recovery. Neighbor Elena remembered Shanti going for a run and noticing how sickly she looked.
And you said she looked pale?
She did not look well. I didn't think she looked well. She looked very thin, because I hadn't seen her since about maybe September.
That was the Gatlin pool party?
The pool party for my kids. And she looked so thin. She looked frail. Her color didn't look good on her face. It looked like pasty, like pale. Mm-hmm. And I noticed it. I was a little shocked, but I thought, well, maybe it's because she's running.
Do you have any indication?
Out of breath. She seemed out of breath? She was out of breath. She leaned down. And for a second, I was like, is she going to hurl over? You know, like she was like, you know. And then I thought, oh, gosh.
David insisted to police that he loved Shanti. She was his true love, and he had never been so happy. But investigators soon learned David had a secret life. For nearly 15 years, Joe worked at a club in Orlando that was a gay gym and spa. The club, located about 1 mile from David's house, had a pool, a sauna, steam room, and gym equipment. David had been going there for 1.5 years and was a member, Joe told Orlando police in May 2018.
And so at that time, when he is getting his membership, you don't have any idea when you're meeting David if he's single, if he's with a man or with a woman.
I am not supposed to ask questions. I try to keep my conversation limited. You know, I try to be pleasant, you know, but not to try to find out where they work or whatever. If they want to tell me, that's fine. But
you're not supposed to ask questions.
No.
Okay.
No.
Is that because some of the men that come there, let's just be honest, are married men?
Yes.
To women.
Yes.
And they're coming there without maybe perhaps their wife's knowledge.
Right.
So is it kind of the policy of the club just to respect their privacy?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
He said David sometimes went twice a week to the club. In the past 4 months, he visited every other week, including the week before Shanti's murder. Joe told detectives that David would sometimes sunbathe nude at the club, and on 2 different occasions, he saw David giving oral sex to other men, once in a locker room and the other time behind the building. Both times occurred within the last year.
Are you familiar with him dating any man?
No, he never mentioned.
Okay.
No.
Or do you get the impression he comes there with a certain guy?
No.
Orlando investigators wanted to know more about David's past. There was one woman whom they believed had answers. David's ex-wife, Carol. An assistant state attorney from Orlando traveled up to Minnesota with a detective. They wanted to get more info about David's finances, as well as his first marriage. Where was David, who never seemed to be working, getting his money from? And why did Carol and David get divorced? There were also some eerie similarities between Carol and Shanti that they wanted to explore too. The prosecutor came armed with phone and financial records. Something seemed unusual to them between an ex-husband and an ex-wife. But whatever Carol was going to tell them, unless she lied to them, she had immunity.
My name is Ryan Vecchio, and I am an assistant state attorney, a prosecutor in the homicide unit of the state attorney's office of the 9th Judicial Circuit of Florida, and that office is located in Orlando, Florida. Present with me is Detective Teresa Sprague, it's a homicide detective from the Orlando Police Department. And I'll have you put your name on the record in a moment. But I kind of wanted to give you sort of the framework of what we'll be working with today. So Florida law allows prosecutors such as myself to issue what we call an investigative subpoena. And that subpoena does compel, force people to talk to us and answer questions.
Don't answer them with like that. Okay.
It's okay. What that means, though, is because Florida law allows me to require witnesses to meet with me and answer questions, is that you are given protection. We call it immunity. And what that means is that anything you say today, even if any answer to a question would involve you implicating yourself in a crime, you have protection against. We cannot use your statements against you. Do you understand that?
I understand that.
Okay.
He said also according to Florida law, if she lies to them, she can then be prosecuted for 2 crimes. Perjury, which carries up to 5 years in state prison, and making false statements under oath, which is punishable by up to 30 years. Carol said she understood. Carol was Canadian. She had a bachelor's of science in mechanical engineering. She also dealt with debilitating illnesses for years. Her health issues were unexplainable, and they were a heavy burden on her life. It changed her relationships with friends. She said she had to be disciplined and on guard about everything she put into her body and was exposed to. Carol explained she met David on a blind date in 1997, and they got married in 1999. Carol Tompkins changed her name to Cooper-Tronnes. She and David both agreed they wanted children, and their friends joked a baby would come 9 months to the day of the wedding. That never happened, though. The couple remained childless until they split up. After they divorced in 2013, Carol went back to her maiden name. Then she changed her mind and went back to Tronnes, even though she wasn't married to David any longer. She said she just didn't feel comfortable with her maiden name anymore. She described their relationship as good, healthy, and loving. Things were good early on in their marriage. But within the last 5 years of their marriage, David quit his job at 3M, a St. Paul headquartered manufacturing company. He had been making good money, she said, about $140,000, she estimated, but he was burnt out and stressed. He wanted to pursue a career change, and she supported him. She said he thought he might be a chef at one point. The detective mentioned that they spoke to some of Carol's and David's mutual friends and asked if Carol's health had gotten progressively worse after David quit his job at 3M.
Do you recall the reason he left 3M was to care for your diet 100%?
I don't recall that.
That he thought that since no one could figure out what was wron, that the Mayo Clinic couldn't figure out what was wrong.
I did go on a very strict diet, so he was helpful with the diet, but I had gone on various diets to try and improve. So I was, at that time, on a very strict diet.
Did he believe, though, that he could absolutely control you being sick or ill or symptomatic strictly by completely controlling what you ate in order to fix or help your issues?
Your question seeks information protected by the marital privilege. I have not waived that privilege and thus will not answer.
Did he cook for you after he left 3M?
Yes.
Did he leave 3M to care for your diet?
No.
Once he left 3M and took over your diet or possibly helped you get better by taking over your diet, did you improve or get worse?
I improved.
Would it surprise you to know that your friends said you got worse?
I improved to a point. At that point, those friends were not, we didn't talk with those friends as much. They did not know what was going on with me.
The detective pointed out that David was still seeing their friends at that point, and that he would often talk about her illness with them. She said she doesn't know what they said, but that she had success with the diet, but then she did get worse again.
And then you got worse again?
Yeah.
Has there ever been an official diagnosis?
I've been diagnosed with multiple food allergies. I have, depending on which doctor you talk to, celiac disease.
Carol denied her health got worse after David stepped down from his job. She said her health was cyclical. She felt better in the summer and worse in the winter. At one point, Carol had fainting spells and was rushed to the hospital. She was in pain. She had suffered a panic attack. I was doing well for a while and then worse for a while between 1999 to 2013, she said. Doctors, allergy specialists, pain management experts, she saw them all. Carol never seemed to get answers. She hadn't experienced these health problems as a child or during college.
Were your plans during your marriage altered because of your health condition?
It's hard to make plans when you have a health condition.
Understand.
Did that preclude you from being able to have children or not necessarily?
I don't know.
Carol ate a strict diet, stricter than most people could ever imagine, she said, because she wanted to be careful what she put in her body so she wouldn't get sick. She kept food journals because she was so sensitive to food. She worried about exposure to mold and yeast, too. I used to love my beer, and now I can't touch it with a 10-foot pole, she said. Her friends remembered young 20-something Carol as vibrant and fun, even if she was a little shy. But once Carol got married to David, they said that all changed. Carol quit her job and stopped talking to her friends.
Good, that's when I got sick.
That's when you got sick. Would it surprise you to know that Shanti's friends described her the exact same way as you, and that the exact same thing happened to her after her marriage to David Tronnes?
That would surprise me.
That her symptoms were very similar to yours after her marriage. That her going out were very similar to yours. That stopped. The communication, the social was there, but not the way it was. They couldn't put their finger on it either, but very similar to what your friends described happened in your first marriage. The move away from family. They were living with her mom and stepdad.
I never moved away from my family. My family doesn't live here.
Carol's friends told investigators that she stopped going out to eat and getting drinks with them. Those memories were vivid. Her friends, or at least her former friends, still remembered her health problems when they spoke with Orlando investigators 10 years later, as a part of Shanti's murder investigation. But Carol said she still felt sick after David was out of her life and they were divorced. I took a turn for the worse, she said in recent years. The assistant state attorney saw the similarities between Carol's health issues and Shanti's. They were investigating to see if they could determine if David had been involved with both women's ailments. Had David poisoned them?
Who primarily cooked in the home?
In the early days, I don't remember. I think he might have done a lot of the cooking. He's a better cook than I.
You mentioned the chef thing, so that makes sense. That he was an aspiring chef after he left 3M. He did a lot of the cooking early on.
I don't know if he did a lot of it, but I mean, I honestly don't remember the meals.
Okay.
Who cooked them?
Carol wasn't always forthcoming with investigators. As you heard earlier, one phrase she used rather repeatedly was, "Your question seeks information protected by the marital privilege. I have not waived that privilege and thus will not answer."
Who filed for divorce?
I did.
Was there a catalyst for that?
Your question seeks information protected by the marital privilege. I have not waived that privilege and thus will not answer.
So rephrase it.
Why did you divorce your husband?
Your question seeks information protected by the marital privilege. I have not waived that privilege and thus will not answer.
So is it your answer that you filed for divorce based solely on conversations that you and David Tronnes had?
Your question seeks information protected by the marital privilege. I have not waived that privilege and thus will not answer.
What was in your mind when you filed for divorce?
She again gave the same answer. The interview became tense as investigators pushed Carol to answer their questions, telling her that her privilege could be contested in court, which would occur back in Florida. Her attorney intervened and called that a threat, at which point the prosecutor said he would have to ask him to stop talking since he was intervening with the interview. The detective then mentioned a chilling coincidence to Carol. Carol and David got married on April 24th of 1999. That same day, April 24th, in 2018, David called 911 to report finding Shanti in the bathtub. The same day, 19 years later.
Do you think they murdered his wife?
No. It's not characteristic with the person I know.
And how would those characteristics be different of what's been alleged versus the person that you know?
He was not a violent person. It just doesn't fit for me that he would do that.
She was asked to describe David, and she said he was smart, energetic, a little eccentric, and focused.
You say he's eccentric. What do you mean by that?
He's not, he has less He's less affected by the pressure to conform to social norms than the general population.
Like what? I mean, explain that to me.
Well, he's extroverted. He doesn't get embarrassed easily.
She said she didn't know him to have a temper.
Do you have any knowledge about Dave and his involvement in homosexual relationships?
No.
Is that something that you have ever heard before? Or
No.
people allege that Dave had been involved in homosexual relationships?
No.
If Dave was involved in those types of relationships, would that surprise you?
Yes.
How come?
There's no signs while I was married to him that was of interest to him.
Authorities also wanted an explanation for David and Carol's finances. Why did they still continue to share accounts with Wells Fargo long after their divorce? Carol said she forgot to remove her name from one of them.
What I'm trying to understand is why did, and I can show you, there's nothing to hide here. For instance, this is a statement from October and November of 2013. Why would the listed address to your account have been Dave's mom's address in Orlando?
That must have been the account that Dave took over, because...
I can show you that one too. Let me show you that one also. Because the account that supposedly, according to the paperwork Dave took over, ending in has both of your names on it also.
I think we might have had both of us on both of those accounts. I don't recall. I really don't recall.
The prosecutor continued to question her.
Wait, here's what I'm trying to find out. This account that you still have with your ex-husband at times has had an excess of $500,000 in this account with active transactions every single month, starting when I have copies of this, which is November 7th of 2013, all the way through April 30th of 2018. And before you answer, I'm also well aware that you and Dave, since your divorce, have had multiple conversations and communications about accounts and trusts and financial interests and all of them. Again, this is not, I don't show you my cards. I'm just trying to get to the bottom of this. So what I'm trying to figure out is why this account has hundreds of thousands of dollars in it at times, and you didn't get your half of it. Doesn't make any sense.
The money was divided at the divorce. Whatever's been in that account has been stuff that Dave has been doing. I haven't touched that account in 5 years. I haven't entered any money. I haven't withdrawn any money. I'm not aware of how much was in it other than the $4,000 that the lady said on that day when I went to use a notary.
And you said that you did not get your name off of that account because you just got busy.
Correct.
And how many times do you think you had contact or talked to Dave after finding that out? I know it was years ago, but...
We would occasionally have contact, but not significant contact. Maybe, how are you doing? We haven't had significant contact since the divorce.
She said they talked maybe once or twice a year since the divorce. The prosecutor then told her he had David's cell phone records and asked if she would be surprised if there would be more communications between them on his records. She said she wouldn't be surprised because they do talk.
So why don't you tell me what you remember the conversations with you and Dave being in August of this year?
I started talking to Dave in regards to some estate planning. His attorney had called me and asked if I would be willing to participate as a minority 1% owner in some estate planning that Dave was putting together. And I said I would consider it, but that I would have to talk to Dave if I was going to do that.
She said it was her understanding that David didn't want his mom's name on the LLC because she's elderly. When asked why he would want his ex-wife's name on there, she said maybe because he found her to be a trustworthy person. She said she agreed to do it because it seemed like he needed help, and they had split amicably. David's arrest came 4 months after Shanti's death. On August 29, 2018, he was charged with first-degree murder and was held without bail. Investigators suspected that David had a fascination with poison, based on what an informant told them after David's arrest. 9 months after their interview with Carol, the detective and another assistant state attorney spoke with the informant at the downtown Orlando courthouse. He said David had tried psychedelic drugs and was particularly interested in a poison called sapo, derived from a South American frog.
Was he just saying he learned about it, or he administered it?
He said that it was poison. I was kind of playing stupid with that, just trying to see what he meant by that. But as soon as he started talking about that, I knew exactly what he was talking about.
So he never said he administered it to anyone?
No. But he did say that, he said the beauty of it is that it can't be tested for here.
The informant had been housed with David in the Orange County Jail and had befriended him. He said they were both white men, which made them minorities in jail. David recognized the informant as another member of the gay club he went to, although the informant said he never had sex with David and didn't remember encountering him there. David wasn't a typical inmate. He was surprisingly zen, according to the informant.
He never really left his room or the pod or what, not the pod, but the rooms where he sleep. And he had no care in the world. In fact, he'd sit there in bed, which I thought was another thing, with his eyes closed. And you don't normally lay in a bed with your eyes closed in jail, but he would sit there all day with his eyes closed, and he'd put a white rag over his eyes and just sit there and hum to himself for hours.
He said everyone thought David was a lawyer or something, but the informant was under the impression that he was a doctor.
Because he knew a lot about certain things that only doctors would know.
Like what?
He was talking about anatomy, was talking about blood, psychology.
The informant said he and David talked regularly and opened up about their criminal charges. David would repeatedly flush the toilet as he spoke, saying that the people listening in at the jail couldn't hear them then. David told him he was in there for murder. "But I'm not a murderer," he said. He told him that he still wears his wedding ring because he still loves his wife. The informant said David described how Shanti confronted him when he was caught messaging other men. She told him she was going to tell everyone and that she wanted a divorce. The informant said David said he didn't remember killing her. He said he blacked out. The informant described David's eyes as getting really, really big ones, and said he had this outer space like he was in a deep thought look. But the informant said David didn't appear to be insane. "He seemed sane to me," he said.
In all of the discussions you had with him, did you ever question his mental status or his sanity?
When I've seen his eyes change, yes. And I've only seen that once before with people.
Did he ever appear not to know where he was?
No. He knew exactly where he was. He was laughing because when he came back from his attorney appointment, he said he was probably going to catch a bond or get out of there soon is what he told everybody in there, but I don't know what he talked about.
He talked with his lawyer and then he came back laughing and thought he was going to get a bond and get out.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
Okay. Did he ever appear to not know what day it was?
No, not at all.
Okay. Did he ever question whether or not why he was in jail?
No.
The informant's interview was certainly important for the prosecution for the upcoming trial. It gave them a new account allegedly from David. The investigation into David Tronnes had turned up some other important revelations. Investigators found Shanti's missing engagement ring, the one she had worn every day. The ring was appraised at more than $10,000. It was discovered in a suitcase in David's bedroom at his mother's trailer. David had refused to answer questions about the ring in his possession as he was arrested and taken to central booking. By then, he had an attorney. More evidence popped up. 11 months after Shanti's murder, prosecutors learned David's defense team had been holding on to evidence taken from the murder scene without disclosing it to the police or the state attorney's office. Private investigators hired by David's lawyers took the items from the property in May 2018, before David was arrested. Bloody sheets and a long green cord commonly used to tie up a dog outside. Was the green cord the murder weapon since Shanti had been strangled and had strange ligature marks on her neck? David's attorney had directed the PIs to collect the items, not realizing that police had left a surveillance camera behind at David's home, according to the police report. Quote, "It seemed apparent if I had not placed a camera facing the home which captured what they had done, Mandel Law PA would not have disclosed to Assistant State Attorney Vecchio that they had this evidence in their possession, which was proof of their client's guilt. Both tampering with physical evidence and accessory after the fact to first-degree murder are felonies." David's attorney, Robert Mandel, argued the green cord wasn't evidence. He had wanted to confiscate it because he said David was suicidal at the time and was threatening to hang himself. Investigators didn't buy the explanation, since it wouldn't have been difficult for David to find something else to use. And if David was at risk for self-harm, his attorney had a duty to report help and make sure he was Baker-acted to get the care he needed. Investigators had taken the mattress pad from the garage apartment, but had apparently missed the sheets during the investigation. The attorney blamed the police for overlooking the bloody sheets. Mandel claimed the sheets were going to be tested for DNA and blood at some point. If he had removed evidence from the home that we had not located during the search, this would mean his client, David Tronnes, had advised them of it, thereby evidencing his guilt, the detective noted. Mandel withdrew as David's attorney. Robert Mandel's own legal representation insisted he hadn't done anything wrong and issued a statement to the local TV station WFTV. The statement read, in part, "The Orlando Police Department's attempt to excuse an inept investigation by casting constitutionally dangerous allegations against a defense attorney is disturbing and an affront of our justice system." The bloody sheets were analyzed for evidence. Both Shanti's and David's DNA were in the bloodstains. Police viewed this as more evidence that David was guilty of his wife's murder. No DNA was found on the cord. As this missing evidence resurfaced, David remained behind bars in the Orange County Jail, awaiting trial. It was 2019, and then 2020. The COVID-19 pandemic delayed court proceedings for many, including David's, across the country. He remained in jail in 2021. Recorded jailhouse phone calls reveal what David's life was like while he waited. He had reportedly joined a gang. Gangs were prevalent, David said, and controlled who got to use the phone in jail.
How do you keep your spirit? How do you keep from being, completely depressed? Obviously, your windows you can see out is pretty. You're seriously just stuck. I've been trying to get myself up. That's the biggest issue, is that they go out. I think I told you they go out for rec in the yard at 8 in the morning, and when you're up until 5, and then you eat breakfast, and then you go to sleep, it's fairly difficult to get excited about.
And there's
getting
really
up
there's
and going
nothing
out, but it's your only chance to get out.
For 1 hour?
Not even, but it's your only chance.
By 2022, David was still in jail, and his mental health was reportedly declining. 2 medical experts, one for the defense and one for the prosecution, evaluated David. They both were in agreement. He was incompetent to stand trial. According to a court filing, the defense's psychiatrist said David was unfit to stand trial due to ongoing manifestations of the diagnosis of schizophrenia. The judge's ruling in late January 2022 made it official. David was unfit for trial and instead was going to a state hospital.
My name's Amanda Postelnick. I'm a professor of law at the University of Maryland School of Law and the Center for Law, Brain, and Behavior at Massachusetts General Hospital. I focus on law and neuroscience, as well as law and mental health.
We spoke with Professor Postelnick to understand what being declared unfit to stand trial exactly meant and what will happen next for David. She said the fact that both the prosecution and defense experts agreed in this case made it an easy ruling for the judge.
Where there's agreement, it's going to be a much easier determination for a judge to make, and it can give everybody in the system a great deal more confidence that the disability is present, is severe, is authentic. The reason why it's not as uncommon as we might expect for them to agree, because we might have this image of the prosecution and the defense always fighting about everything, is that the standard for competence is so very low that a person has to be so incapacitated before they can be found incompetent that it shouldn't be a very close judgment call. And so in order for the defense to come forward with a claim of incompetence to stand trial, they need to demonstrate such a poor level of functioning on the part of the defendant that it's often hard for the prosecution to disagree with that. And, I want to say that the prosecution, they also generally only want to try competent defendants. A prosecutor wants to lead and participate in a fair process. They want to have a trial that runs smoothly and appropriately and that isn't disrupted by the defendant's difficulties with mental or physical health. And they want to have a valid conviction. And all of those three things can only happen if the defendant meets that competence standard. So the prosecution also has an interest in making sure that the defendant is competent to stand trial and that they don't go forward to trial with a defendant who is not competent.
So what is a judge looking for when deciding if a defendant is unfit to stand trial?
So what a judge is thinking about is less specifically what is this person's diagnosis, and more, can this person understand the process and meaningfully participate in their own defense? So we have a principle that a person can only fairly be tried and convicted as a defendant if they have some sense of what's going on, if they're oriented in time, place, and space, if they can communicate with their own attorneys and give answers that their attorneys can understand. The defendant doesn't have to have a sophisticated understanding of the process, but they need to know, for example, that they are in a courtroom, what a judge is, what a jury does, what they've been charged with, what the consequences will be if they're convicted, and if appropriate, to be able to answer questions in court as well. Although, of course, the defendant has a Fifth Amendment right not to take the stand in their own defense.
Professor Postelnick said there are many kinds of mental disabilities that can cause a person to become impaired like this.
Schizophrenia certainly could be a reason why a person would be unable to understand where they are and what's going on. But it could also be many, many other kinds of mental health diagnoses or physical diagnoses. A person who has suffered a traumatic head injury, for example, and has extreme difficulty communicating or understanding what's happening around them. A person with any other form of psychosis that isn't diagnosed as schizophrenia. Psychosis meaning suffering from delusions, or not being able to understand and fully participate in reality as the rest of us experience it. So from the legal system's perspective, it's less about the diagnosis and it's more about the level of understanding and ability.
So what's next for David Tronnes?
So when a defendant is found unfit to stand trial, what happens is they're transferred to a state mental health facility, sometimes located within the prison system, sometimes physically separate from the prison system, where they receive care and treatment geared toward restoring them to competency to stand trial. The goal there is legal and medical. It's not just to get the person healthy again. So it's not just like you or me getting care for ourselves or a family member. The main point is just to get them to a position where they can understand and participate in their own case. So it's not much of a break for the defendant. They're still being held securely. They have not gained their freedom, and their trial hasn't been canceled. Once they are capable of understanding and participating in the process of trial, the trial will go forward. So it's more like a pause button until somebody is well enough to resume their own case than any kind of final disposition. It's not the end of the process. It's just one step along the way.
So with the pause button on the murder trial, Shanti's friends and family are still waiting for justice. And David, who is innocent until proven guilty, is waiting for his due process in court. When will this episode see a part 2? Only time will tell. And that's all for this episode. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this case. What evidence do you think will be ruled admissible at trial? And what evidence do you not see coming in? What are your thoughts on possible motives, or if you believe David is even guilty? Let me know by joining the conversation on Instagram @CourtJunkie, by tweeting me @CourtJunkiePod, or by emailing me at podcast@CourtJunkie.com. This episode was researched and written by Gabrielle Russon. A special thank you to Professor Amanda Postilnick for talking to us about defendants' mental competency. And lastly, if you'd like to hear these episodes without the ads or hear additional Court Junkie bonus episodes, check out my Patreon options at CourtJunkie.com/support. Thanks again for listening. Until next time.